Well, hello, and welcome to episode 128 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, we're headed back to the movie theater to see Marvel. Marvel back again with their 319th film, just of this last year, I think. No, not really that many, but it has been a few. But one of the fan favorites of Marvel films has been Guardians of the Galaxy. Starting back in 2014, we got the first Guardians film with its rockin' soundtrack. Best part of the movie, possibly, maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to say for sure, but pretty good. And then we had Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, 2017. Also, really good soundtrack. Best part of the movie, maybe. Not going to say so for sure. Guardians have been around, though, other stuff. Avengers, they were in Thor. They're getting around. They were running like a Christmas special this past year, I think, on Disney Plus. But we need to wrap this story up as much as
Yeah,
these comic book movie stories get wrapped up. And that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
that's right. Well, I'll tell you right now, the best part of the first Guardians of the Galaxy was the soundtrack and the dance off at the end. That was great. And then the second
Fair.
one, the best part was the villain because Ego, played by Kurt Russell, amazing. And then of course the whole father-son thing at the end. If you know, you know, not spoiling it for you, but that part absolutely epic. That's the best part of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, hands down. But the soundtracks are amazing. Looking forward to the soundtrack coming out. It's probably out and I'm just old and I haven't seen it or downloaded it yet, but music is amazing. So excited. I don't know if anybody knows this or anybody, well, all the Marvel super duper fans are really excited about the villain that should be coming out, right? In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, we have this Gold Adam thing. If you watched until the very end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, you see that Aisha, who's like the queen of the Sovereign, who's covered in gold glitter, totally awesome. That whole world is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
She finally creates this thing that she says is going to go after the Guardians of the Galaxy. And we're so excited about that in 2017 when we see this. However, there's a small problem because Thanos is getting up in our business. He's snapping his fingers, ruining half of the world. So we had to put the whole Adam thing on the back burner. So very excited to see how it all shakes out in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
That's right. Yeah. And Adam is our inspiration here for our cocktail that we're going to be doing for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back to whip up this week's cocktail and get ready to go put on some tunes and battle all of our enemies and, I don't know, go hang out on Peter Quill's ship. So we'll do that and we'll be right back.
So this week, we're mixing up a cocktail all on our own. We're not asking for anybody's help. We scoured the internet and we found a bunch of stuff that looked amazing, but didn't look very tasty to us. And as we are getting older and more refined in our tastes, we decided to make our own cocktail for the first time in a long time. So I'm super excited about it. And we're paying homage to Peter Quill and his crew, and the villain in the aptly named cocktail, the Golden Adam.
That's right. Yeah, Adam Warlock is serving as inspiration, and that color palette really, the gold. That's what this one is all about. This is going to be a riff on a lemon drop martini. We both love martinis. We love lemons. A lemon drop martini basically is just some limoncello. You're just mixing it up martini style. You could also just pour some limoncello in your glass, which is always a good time too. But let's mix one of these up, Michaela. This comes together real simple, but then you're going to have to, if you want it golden, if you want to turn Adam into Golden Adam, you're going to need a little bit of help from some luster dust and some edible glitter and stuff like that. I'll let you talk about that, but I'm going to mix up the cocktail for everyone. So let's take a shaker tin, let's get some ice in it, and let's put in 2 ounces of your favorite vodka, a half ounce of triple sec, 1 ounce of lemon juice, freshly squeezed, if you please, 1 ounce of simple syrup, and you're going to shake that with the ice, and then you're going to strain it into a martini glass that has been rimmed with sugar. If you want, you don't have to do the sugar. That's going to be up to you, but it is nice. It's a nice little sugary treat, and then you're going to enjoy. But if you want the full Golden Adam experience, you're going to need to jazz it up, and that's what you did, Michaela. What do we need to do?
Okay, so you're going to get some gold luster dust. Okay, you can find this at any Amazon.com near you.
Like everything else in the whole
like
world,
like
basically.
everything else. You're welcome, Jeff Bezos. So you don't need a lot. So I would say like an eighth of a teaspoon is plenty. Okay. If you,
A little
especially if
goes a
you're making
long
one.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't put too much in it because while it's totally edible, it does slightly change the flavor. If you put too much in, you will definitely notice it. So a little goes a long way. Okay. Less is more. You're going to put that in your shaker tin and you're going to shake it up with the ice, and it's going to create this beautiful luster, and it's gonna be this swirly gold concoction. It's so pretty. And then what we did to just be a little extra, because it's me, we went ahead and dehydrated some lemons. And then I found some really amazing gold edible glitter spray that I just sprayed gently on top of the lemons, and then place it beautifully in the middle of the glass. So it's very fancy. I have to say my favorite thing about this particular character is that gold sheen that they get on them. It really does look like they've been dipped in this gold paint. If you were a child of the 80s, your parents might have bronzed your baby shoes, and it kind of looks like that. It's just really cool looking. And so when we were trying to find the right cocktail to make for this, I really wanted something that was going to be that mind-boggling, like beautiful. And I have to say, I think we did a really good job. This cocktail looks amazing. I'm super proud of us for putting this together and making it also taste so good. And I really think that making sure that you use freshly squeezed lemon is key. And then if you make your own simple syrup rather than buy it, I think that adds a lot of umptiousness to it. Simple syrup is equal parts sugar and water. You just put it on a stove or in the microwave just until the sugar melts, and then you let it cool. It's really easy to make. That's why it's called simple syrup. And I really encourage you, once you put it together, you can keep it in your refrigerator for weeks, as long as it's in a tightly sealed container. So make some up, and then you can add it to cocktails all the time. And it's just a really nice way to jazz up and make something even more fancier than it normally is.
Yeah, absolutely. It keeps for a long time. It's good in lots of different cocktails, and you'll see it all over cocktail recipes for sure. So yeah, mix some of that up. So this cocktail, yeah, it's like I said, it's just kind of a version of a lemon drop martini, which is a drink that you and I both really like. And then yeah, it's got the gold going on, Goldfinger. Akin, I guess. If you're, I thought that's where you're going when you said child of the 80s. Your parents probably watched Goldfinger, and you watched it too. So this cocktail, to me was a little bit kind of too umptious with that 1 ounce of simple syrup. I think if I was going to do it again, I would probably cut that back just a little bit, just to let a little bit more of that lemon, kind of citrus. Tartness come through a little bit more, but this is really good. It's a really nice, kind of fun, playful way to get into the world of martinis. I think tread lightly. I mean, there is 2 ounces of vodka and a half ounce of triple sec in this, so even though it doesn't taste maybe as potent as just a straight up vodka or gin martini, it still has all the same powers are within this one, just like
That's
Golden
right.
Adam for sure. So you want to make sure you are treading lightly here in this one. But yeah, I think this is a really good cocktail, and then obviously it looks gorgeous, and it's paying homage there to Adam Warlock really well, and kind of this final chapter for our crew of the Guardians.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Like I said, I'm super proud of us for making this drink so pretty. It's definitely more involved than our kind of lobby bar cocktails, but I really hope you all give it a shot. If you live near me, I've got plenty of luster dust. You don't need to order some, but if you don't live near me, just order some. Luster dust, everybody needs a little gold glitter in their lives, right? Right.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Get some gold into your lives and get this drink into your lives. So let us know at home if you mix up one of these, or take pictures, send those into us, because we want to see it. But for now, Michaela, we have a lot of ground to cover. There are a lot of members of this Guardians crew. We're gonna have to get into their stories. We're gonna have to talk all about them. The origins, the endings, all the things, all the emotions we felt. We're gonna get into all that. So we're gonna need another one of these to make it through this one. I can almost guarantee it. So let's go mix up another Golden Adam, and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Spoiler warning for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. If you've not yet seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and you don't want to know what happens, then you should press pause on this podcast. Don't press stop completely. Just go make yourself a Golden Adam, because it's real good. And then go watch the film. It's only 150 minutes long, which seems really long, and it is. And we're going to talk about that. But then after that, you can come back, press play, and you can hear us chat about all the things because we're going to spoil this movie.
We're going to spoil the heck out of it. Yeah, just press pause like you would on your iPod back in the day for sure. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, that's probably with good reason because it just came out last week as of us talking about it right now. Released 2023, written and directed by James Gunn, who is back for his third go at this to wrap up his Guardians of the Galaxy story arc here. And it, of course, stars Chris Pratt, Dave Bautista, Karen Gillan, Zoe Saldana, Vin Diesel, Pom Clemente, and Bradley Cooper. They're all back as our Guardians of the Galaxy. Plus, we've got a handful of other people that we're going to be talking about as we go through this thing. So, Michaela, this is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We had Volume 1 came out in 2014, Volume 2 in 2017. Had a nifty little holiday special just this past winter season, and then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 here. So, let me ask you this before we get into this. We haven't talked about Guardians really too much. Maybe they got a name drop in some of our other Marvel coverage. I don't know, but were you familiar with Guardians of the Galaxy at all before Volume 1?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I remember seeing the preview for the first time. I think it was for like Iron Man 3, something like that. And Anthony, my husband, got very excited sitting in the seat next to me. And I was like, who are these people? There's like a big green lady and there's a giant tree oak looking thing. And then Dave Bautista, who was famous in the WWE as just Batista. He's like enormous and all muscly, but he had this like blue skin with red eye makeup on or whatever. Yeah, I had no idea who they were. And then when the movie came out, I actually really loved it. I think most people really loved the first 10 minutes where, I guess the second 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes are real sad because it's a little boy who's losing his mom. But when Peter Quill like descends onto that planet and he's singing and he's got the little rat things that he's like holding up in his hands and singing, I was like, this film is going to be amazing. And I wasn't wrong. I feel like I wasn't wrong. It really, it's like this subset of the Avengers that I think a lot of people identify with. There's a lot of really cool things that happen with all the characters. And but yeah, I had no idea what we were getting into when that first film began.
Yeah, for sure. Same as me. And that was kind of one of the things about the MCU. There were a lot of these kind of comic book stories that were being told that people weren't hugely familiar with. Obviously, comic book people knew these characters and loved them, but other than like the big hitters, right? Your Spider-Mans, your Incredible Hulks, your Captain Americas. A lot of these were more kind of on the periphery, and Guardians of the Galaxy definitely were that. Now I remember kind of at the time that this came out that a lot of people were really confused how you could do a Guardians of the Galaxy movie because, like you said, there is a big tree looking guy there. There is a raccoon. How do these things happen in a real movie? And they really did. And the best way to do that is with a kickin' soundtrack. And that's probably one of the things that Guardians of the Galaxy is most known for. Like you said, Peter Quill singing and dancing. He's got his little iPod there. He's playing all of his tunes from his childhood. It's all these kind of forgotten tracks to time, and they're all coming back and filling our collective musical imaginations. And Volume 1 comes out, it does really well, gets Oscar noms for hair and makeup and visual effects. Volume 2, an Oscar nom for visual effects, and then now we've got Volume 3, Michaela. So visual effects I think is another shoe in for this. It looks pretty great. We talked coming out of the theater last night. We just saw this a little over, I don't know, about 12 hours ago it started. We talked about that the makeup in this one was really, really well done as well. We had a little bit less of the Ravager stuff, but kind of a little bit more intimate, I think, in this one. Not quite as expansive, with all of them, but still really well done. And some of the characters there, and we're going to talk about all of that stuff for sure. But anything else kind of stick out to you, just kind of visually or technically about this before we get into the story, Michaela?
Yeah, so the planet that they land on, I don't even know if we should call it a planet.
It's
It
so
looks
gross.
like
It's so gross looking.
it looks like an eyeball that has been ripped out of a giant, because it's a very special planet. It's oh, and what did they even call it? It was made out of
I don't know. It's like an organic
flesh.
planet or
Yeah, it's
something.
an
Yeah.
organic planet. And I have to tell you, it's the grossest thing I think I've ever seen in my life, because they land on the surface of it. It's like skin, but like gross skin. Like it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
slimy. It's got hair growing out of it. All of the hallways look like the insides of an intestine. Um, and the people in it look like bits of cholesterol that are just clogging up these artery hallways. It's
Mm.
super gross, and very well thought of. Everything that is structural is made of bone,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
this bone kind of cartilage thing. So you've got this really beautiful pink, white, bloody but dried bloody concoction that's making up the
Yeah.
walls and the interior decor. All the doors kind of fold open like a giant vulva. It's really weird. I am hats off to them for making something so gross yet also
Yeah.
so functional, because a lot of
Yeah.
things happen in that giant eyeball planet thing.
Yeah, that is just one of many questionable things that some person could come up with. I don't know if that was all James Gunn coming up with these ideas, but whoever was coming up with the ideas for this thing, I guess hats off to you, and maybe get some help. I don't know for sure, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk more about that kind of planet thing here as we get through this. We're gonna make our way through the story. We just saw it last night, so it's going to be mostly kind of reactionary on our case, because we haven't had too much time to sit with this. But let's get into the story a little bit. We are catching back up with the Guardians here. They're on their I don't know, kind of new headquarters in this place. It's called Nowhere. That's Nowhere with a K. It's a pretty cool name for a town. Everyone is getting back together. You got kind of the kind of some people from the Ravagers, kind of some people and races of people that we've met throughout the first kind of Guardians here. And it looks like they're kind of setting up this little settlement. They're getting things built. Groot is there. Rocket's there running around. Opens with the Radiohead song. So this movie, it was already 10 for 10 for me, coming right out of the gate. Everyone is not doing that good, though, because Peter Quill is there. He has been in a wee bit of a stupor, I'm guessing, because of the loss of his beloved Gamora, and is not quite able to deal with that appropriately. But bad news, we're in the middle of Nowhere, setting things up, having a good time. But who comes up? It's the namesake for our cocktail,
That's
Michaela.
right.
Golden Adam comes and get crashes this party crashing hardcore. Adam, thanks a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I love this character. He is played by the amazing Will Poulter. Will Poulter is like, I don't know, he's like 40 years old now. Actually, I'm lying. He's 30 years old and he still looks 17. I don't know how he does it. He's amazing. And he's like covered in gold. He's got this really cool like bindi on his forehead that's like a jewel that radiates out like death rays. And my son thought that he was like a golden Superman, and he kind of
Mm,
is. And if anybody if you watch the second one, he was created in order to help the Sovereign. The Sovereign are the gold people that came out of Volume 2, that the Avengers or the Guardians of the Galaxies were stealing batteries for, and then ended up
mm-hmm.
continuing to steal the batteries instead of giving them to the Sovereign. So they created Warlock Adam, this golden creature, to go and avenge them. The problem is that apparently he was cooking in this golden chrysalis pod thing, and they took him out too soon. So he wasn't fully formed. Like his body was fully formed, but his brain is that of a child. And so there's some comedic gold in this film where they tell him to do something and he either takes it too literally or he goes too far.
Mm-hmm.
And really all he wants is to not necessarily be a killer. He's doing these things because his mom is telling him to, and he's young. He doesn't know any better, right? He's like a very what do we call the kids these days? Impressionable. He's a very impressionable superhero. So he was told to go and pick up Rocket and kidnap Rocket. In his journey to do that, he ends up really hurting Rocket. He gets like shot or stabbed. But luckily Nebula is there, played by the totally amazing Karen Gillan, and she ends up stabbing this gold guy and kind of keeping him at bay. But we've got a huge problem because now poor little Rocket is like in really bad shape. And so they have to figure out what to do to save him.
Yeah, that's right. They run in. Everyone is trying to come, to the aid, right? Everyone is there battling Golden Adam there, as it were. And yeah, unfortunately, he gets Rocket injured in the struggle there, as you mentioned. Nebula gets the one up, gets him stabbed, and gets Rocket to safety for at least the time being. They're trying to do some medical recovery on him. Peter Quill's coming in late because he was drunk in bed, wasn't there to help out enough, and they put this medical pack on him. It starts to like spark and do all this stuff. We don't really know what's going on, and Nebula's like reading the code, I guess, inside of Rocket, and she's like, oh, he's got like this lock on him because he's some proprietary right of some guy out there, some high evolutionary guy. Who is this guy? I don't know, but we need to find out because Rocket is not long for the Earth if we don't get him some help. So that is when we go into the traumatic part of the movie. So let's just go ahead and talk about this. We're going to kind of talk about this whole thing because it kind of keeps flashing back and forth between this as we're really kind of playing out Rocket's story. This is really kind of a Rocket origin story film for volume 3 here, as it were. But we go back, we see little baby Rockets, little baby Rocket. And a lot of bad stuff happens to little baby Rocket as he's poked and prodded and experimented on. And we see Rocket there. He's, put into kind of a little cage. There's some other little adorable creatures there that have also been poked and prodded and poked at. There is like an otter. There is a walrus. There is a rabbit. And they're basically the end results of some experiments that the High Evolutionary has been doing, trying to perfect his, I don't know, perfect world and race of people and things. All these creatures have no one else in the world, so they become fast friends and they dream about the day they get to go out into the sky. As Rocket saw there, as he's learning the ways of the High Evolutionary, trying to figure things out. So this part was not that pleasant to watch, Michaela. I was not a big fan of it as someone who holds animals in pretty high esteem. But what did you think? This is a backstory kind of here. I don't know. We can talk about it briefly and then move on. I don't want to dwell on it too much because very upsetting stuff. I don't like it.
Yeah. No. Again, I think we went a little Tim Burton on the creatures because they're very sweet. They're actually very sweet, but they look terrifying. You got this anthropomorphic otter who doesn't have arms anymore. Really sad. You got this cute little bunny who's like given spider feet. And they're so sweet. They're all really sweet. The one that they call Teeths, because they come up with names for each other because no one loves them, so they do it themselves. He's like probably my favorite. He's like this walrus thing that's got this, I don't know. He's got like a
wheelchair kind of thing.
Very, I would say, trigger warning.
Yeah.
Almost. If seeing things like that is going to really bother you, this is not the movie for you because we keep flashbacking to it. And I kind of wished that they had the moment and let it go because it's really hard on my old heart because it's very sad. But one thing that we do see that we should talk about is the friendship kind of that they create, right? And that they have this dream that Lila is kind of the love interest of Rocket. They're in these cages, so they only get to like touch one time in the whole film, but you feel like that they create this first band of friends that Rocket's ever had. And so he is really smart and he is created. I don't know what his purpose was, why they did all these things to all of these animals. But he has this added extra invention kind of piece to his personality that the infinite creator, the High Evolutionary, was really shocked by. And so he's got this ability to be able to make things out of almost nothing. So he and the team, his little friends, come up with a plan. They're like, we're gonna get out of here. the High Evolutionary is going to continue to experiment on people or on animals, and that's not cool. And so they try to escape. Rocket has this really cool key card thing that he just makes out of like a bunch of pieces of metal, and it's amazing. I do love that part where they're showing how he goes and he's hidden all these pieces everywhere because he knew that there would come a time for him to use it, and he goes and he gets it and puts it all together, and that's really cool. But it ends up being really being all for naught. So he tries to get them out. They all, except for Rocket, get killed in trying to leave this space, and Rocket is the only one that escapes. And so it tells the story in a very tough way of how Rocket got to be where he is. So if you watch the two previous Guardians of the Galaxy, you see that Rocket will do things just to push people away, just to upset them, because he can't hurt that he doesn't want to hurt the way that he did when he lost his first group of friends. And so I love that they showed that piece. It's just really hard because they're
it's
just
a lot.
a cute little bunny, and it's just they've obviously been really horribly tortured, and that was hard.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. If that stuff upsets you, heed warning there. If you've got kids that you think maybe could go or not go, keep that in mind. I guess check all that stuff out on your own, make your own decisions there. But kind of the crux of what we get out of this is that Rocket, loses his friends there. Obviously, that's the important part for Rocket. But the High Evolutionary, who has created Rocket, for lack of better terms, Rocket kind of surpasses him in knowledge. So the High Evolutionary really has kind of this a singular focus then for kind of this film and for, I don't know, presumably kind of his whole rest of his career of finding Rocket so he can basically take his brain out and research it and figure out how he got to be smarter than the High Evolutionary in the first place. So that's kind of Rocket's backstory. We might touch again on it here, as we get into the end of the film. So what do we have to do? We have to go find the Evolutionary. We know that he is the leader of this, what is it? It's like Orga Corp or something like that it's called. And we are off because we have to get this pass key so we can save Rocket. So we go to Orga Corp headquarters. That's that weird, gross, humanoid, fleshy planet that Michaela was talking about earlier. They're going to have to talk to the Ravagers because they got to break into this place. It's not a place you can just get into. So they call up their buds. The Ravagers say, "Hey, can you come help me?" Sure enough, they can. And they're going to send one Gamora. It's a new Gamora. It's the same Gamora, but it's a different Gamora. Not the one. It's the one Peter Quill loves, but not the one that loves him back. She is coming in to help out the team.
Yeah, and I do think that it's kind of neat because, gosh, there's a lot more to unpack on this film than I originally thought. There's the sisterhood between Gamora and Nebula. Nebula is now no longer. I don't know how to. We're gonna have a philosophical discussion about a humanoid. So she was human, I think, or she was a living creature. I don't know if she's human because she's not from Earth, but apparently Thanos would take body parts off of her. I mean, talk about really dark stuff, man. Take body parts off of her to create what is now Nebula. And so Nebula is amazing because she sort of can't be killed. And so there was all this rivalry between Nebula and Gamora for the longest time, and now all of that's kind of behind them. So I love how they see each other and they just kind of grunt. They do this when they see each other. But I love that Gamora really cherishes that family piece because she says at the beginning of this when she shows up, and of course Peter Quill is just dumbfounded because he just every time he sees that this Gamora, he's reminded of his own Gamora who is now dead and who he loved, and she loved him, and she's trying to explain to him, "Hey, I'm only here for family." And he was like, "Well, we were your family at one point. You don't know any of this." And it's really a beautiful and heartbreaking scene where he tries to explain to her, "We were really, you don't understand, we were really in love and you were really part of this." And she's really trying to gently, but in a Gamora way, be like, "Dude, I'm not that person, and I'm not just going to slip back into that role." You almost think that maybe she will by the end of this film. You think that maybe she'll kind of come back to him and settle right in. I'm glad that they did not do that because I feel that would have been too easy. And there's probably more like esoteric things about that we can get into. But yeah, I love that she's like this Ravager now. And of course, they've been dealing with the Ravagers for a long time. Like Kraglin is there. He's like, hey, I was a Ravager way before you were. Like, you're not anything special. He's still got his arrow that Yondu had left to him, and he's trying to make it work, and he's killing and everything. Everybody's freaking out because he has no control over this flying arrow that can shoot fire into people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you had Kraglin there. You also had Cosmo the dog there, and they kind of had this back and forth throughout, which is really kind of fun. Where he calls Cosmo a bad dog at the beginning of the film, and it keeps kind of going through. That's pretty fun. But yeah, we're on our way to the Orga Corp place. Sylvester Stallone comes back as Sakar Ogord, who's one of the high ranking Ravagers. So it's always fun, I think, for Sylvester Stallone to pop up in this thing because it seems so out of place in a movie that everything is kind of out of place. So I really love that stuff. But we go down onto this weird, I don't know, flesh and blood kind of planet kind of thing. They break in. It's pretty humorous. Nathan Fillion is there. He's one of these he's one of these cholesterol globule fighter things and these big suits. It's pretty funny, but they get into the vault. Peter Quill kind of sweet talks his way in there, kind of not, kind of maybe Gamora just points a gun at this lady and says, give us this file. So they get the file on Rocket. I forget what his little call sign number was there that he was given, but they get back to the ship, and Nebula is going through it, and she says, it looks like they might have deleted the passcode a day ago, probably by this guy right here. And Peter Quill says, hey, I saw that guy roaming around the halls here of Orga Corp. We got to go find him. Where is he going to be? He's going to be on, what's it called, like New Earth or Better Earth or Second Earth or I don't know, our new good Earth. Counter Earth, which doesn't seem that counter to our Earth at all. It seems basically the same with just people that have been, I don't know, manufactured in some way by the High Evolutionary.
Yeah, I do find that interesting because they get there, they go to this suburb area. It looks like the city center is like this giant red triangle that sits in the middle of it's like this almost it's kind of like the Louvre, only it's giant, it's bigger, and it's red. But they point to that as the city center, and there are all these houses that look very much like our houses, only it's like 1976. Now we have to talk about the set direction in this particular piece because I thought it was genius, because they were like, hey, thinking about this last night after watching it, I thought, why did they make these decisions? Well, he created this world, this High Evolutionary created this world as the perfect place, but he was behind. So he had to start somewhere. And he had to see if they evolved naturally. And so I don't know when he started, but they only got to like the mid 1970s. So we've got these really old, like classic Oldsmobile and Buicks that are like longer than a whale, like sitting in these driveways. We've got these really cool like ranch style homes that were like huge in that time. You've got all the all of the things that are from an American anyway are very symbolic of that time period inside the houses. You've got these really strange family photographs where everybody's like got a moon behind them and they're all like looking off into the stars and all of that stuff that was super cool at the time that now we make fun of, and now we make fun of again because it's the same thing, but it's counter Earth, and instead of it being humans, it's like these, I don't know, half pig looking things or half cow looking things or something like that. But they all seem very similar to us as humans, which is interesting. They land there. They get this very nice woman to help. They don't speak the same language. And of course, we get a lot of things. Drax is this is over his head. He doesn't understand what's happening. He doesn't understand that he can't use a couch as a place to sleep. He's like, it's obviously long enough for me to lay on. And some of that gives some comedic relief, but the middle of the city center giant pyramid looking thing actually is a ship and half of it is buried underneath the earth. I don't know why the evolutionary dude decided to do that.
There's gotta be a better way to keep your ship sorted there, sir. Yeah, I guess yeah, the set design, I suppose, yeah, it was just based on probably would have been, I guess, geared around the same time that Peter Quill would have left, gotten taken up by the Ravagers in the first one. I think that's what happened to him, right? Probably there, because I think the High Evolutionary makes mention that he'd been to Earth several times, like in the past or something. So that's probably as far as his knowledge of Earth got to. And yeah, one of the things that I kind of want to talk to you about, this kind of leads into that a little bit. So the High Evolutionary, basically, and talking to Rocket there, kind of in the flashbacks, he's trying to basically like advance these creatures. He puts them into like a chamber and can give them, I don't know, like 50,000 years of evolution or something. In like, I don't know, just a matter of a moment, that all is going bad, and Rocket figures out how to do it right, and that's where the crux of his problem lies. But my question, my main kind of concern about that was basically evolution, at least to my very, very Luddite mind, is that that's something that happens to people and species and plants and things because of like the outside influence on them. So if you just put them in a little chamber, how do you really evolve? I don't know. So maybe all of the evolution is just being whatever is inside of the evolutionary's mind, because would be the only like outside influence on these things if you're putting them into a chamber. I don't really understand it. It's a comic book thing. Doesn't have to make that much sense. But yeah, we are on our way to the red pyramid kind of thing there. Peter Quill has an audience with the High Revolutionary. I really like this. He kind of goes in, and the High Evolutionary cannot give him the time of day, even though he had summoned him in, which is pretty funny, until they kind of pull some weapons or something like that. And then he's like, "Oh, okay, well, now I have time for you," which I thought was pretty funny, because they have found now the guy that had erased the thing, so they need to get him out of there. But bad news, they're on this crazy ship that is taken out of the middle of this new Earth. I keep forgetting what it's called.
Counter Earth.
Counter Earth. It's taken up out of Counter Earth. It's raining down fire. Counter Earth is about to be destroyed. It's all going bad. This went from 0 to 60 just like that for our crew.
Yeah, it's hard too, because I want to talk a little bit about the sound editing. There's a lot more violence in this film than I think in any of the other Guardians of the Galaxies. I definitely think that they're really taking that PG-13 rating very seriously. It's not, and it's not that it's bloody violence, although it's pretty stirring when you're watching it, but the sound editing is the worst. It makes it almost worse than if it was something that was more graphic than what it is, because there's a lot more splats and just gross.
Yeah.
I mean, they did a great job because I am sufficiently grossed out, but I will say
pretty visceral. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the right word. The scene where they grab the guy who has the code somewhere embedded in his brain, they take him, they take him and they drag him on the ground, and then he ends up drowning in this river. I mean, that's pretty tough. But I don't know why it doesn't electrocute him when they take the thing out of his brain, but whatever. But they get that piece of code and they bring it back up to their ship. But the team gets separated. And this is something that I do really want to talk about when we talk about their character development. You know, Drax takes a lot of flack for not being the smartest of the Guardians, right? And then you have Mantis, who always takes up for him. And they make the decision. Well, Drax makes the decision to follow his friends, even though he was specifically told to go ahead and stay with Rocket on their ship as they go to the bigger ship that was the giant red,
the giant pyramid ship. Yeah.
Right. And so he decides he's not going to listen to them. And so, of course, they're worried about what's happening on the ship on the Guardians of the Galaxy ship, when the planet starts to completely fall apart and explode, and they're not there at all. They made the decision to not be there. So there's this big fight between them, and it comes out that Drax finally realizes that everyone thinks he's stupid. And I love what happens next, because Mantis can't stand the idea of hurting anybody, especially her friend Drax, who takes up for her as well, and so she makes him forget. And I wish in some ways we had that ability as humans, right? Because there are definitely times when in deep friendships or families, because this is basically a family that they've chosen to be, you say things you don't mean, and you wish you could be like, you know what? Let's just reset and forget. I really loved that scene, but it shows that their intentions are great, even though they don't always do what they're supposed to do. And somehow it comes out and it's okay. Which is a recurring theme in all of the Guardians of the Galaxy films. So I was really hoping that they were going to stick with that. And I was glad to see that they continued.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some really great stuff with Drax and Mantis there, as they go back onto the ship. And basically, yeah, like you said, they get separated because there's some miscommunication. Not very good at communicating, the Guardians, I will say. Especially with Rocket out of commission, they're back on board their own ship. So Peter and Groot are there. They leave. Nebula and Drax and Mantis show up to rescue them, even though they're not there, and they end up getting into the ship, and they stumble upon a bunch of kids. The High Evolutionary apparently not content with just animals, but also people. He's just trying to push his own agenda on everyone, however he wants. But we get the really great kind of stuff here with Drax, who's able to communicate with these kids because maybe he's not an idiot. Maybe English isn't his first language. Who knows? Hard to say for sure. That's some pretty great stuff there, as he's able to really kind of take charge, as Drax, kind of through the first couple of volumes, other than being kind of this big bruiser, has definitely played, second fiddle to everyone else kind of on board here, and he's able to kind of lead the charge here at the end, which I really, really liked. But moral of the story, the Guardians are separated. They got to get back together. The High Evolutionary says, I got your friends. They're caught in this little prison that I have on board my giant pyramid spaceship. You better come back if you want to save them. Of course, Peter says, yes, they've gotten Rocket is back to full health here. You get a very, very sad scene kind of at the end there, as they're trying to revive Rocket, kind of in the waning moments. And he's, walking towards the lights, and Lila is there and his other friends. And they have kind of this moment, and their little noses touch. And Lila tells him that, it's, he can come up into the sky with them to play and have their adventures, but not yet, because he's not done doing all the things that he needs to do back with his family down in the real world. So he goes back. He's able to recover, and they're on their way to go save their friends and have a final showdown with the High Evolutionary. So they get back. I really like, Rocket is back. He's flying a ship, which is what he's always been meant to do. You got Groot flying one of the ships, and then you got Peter and Gamora flying the other ship, and they're headed back to this giant pyramid thing. And then you get probably the coolest thing: the Ravagers and their giant skull ship come to create a diversion and fire through the back so they can get everyone escaped. And it's just pure pandemonium. And you get maybe kind of the most fun action sequence, maybe. And a lot of the Marvel stuff that I've seen in a long time is finally, at the very last, all of the Guardians are together. These doors slide open, and basically every enemy that's on board the ship is in this giant hallway. But it's a really neat fight scene where it's going in and out of slow motion. Everyone's getting to show off all of their abilities. They're working together, because this movie has largely seen the Guardians separated in some sense or another. But to have them all back kind of for one final hurrah was really great.
Yeah. More squishing, lots of squishy noises, because these things that are the enemy,
squishing and lots of pus.
I don't even know what they are. They're like giant balls of goo with like robotic hands and feet that all have guns.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're like those little like squishable
genius, but
toys.
Gross.
If you like slice one open, that's what they look like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yucky. But I do like that. They find the team goes down, they see all these kids. They decide, hey, we got to save all the kids. And meanwhile, we have sort of a coup that happens with the High Evolutionary, right? He's like, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and we're gonna everybody, his entire crew that's around him is like, sir, we're all gonna die. And he's like, whatever, we deserve to die if we can't figure this out. I'm a god. And they're like, no, we don't think that you're a god anymore. And it's really sad. I feel like this is a historical moment. If you're a historian, you can look back and see where this has happened before. Fortunately, in the real world, these things don't happen to gods, but the High Evolutionary has these inner powers. He's probably more machine than man, and so he's got this weird like blue light that's in him that can kill everything. And so it's a little too late for the coup to occur. Although they do try at the very end. The High Evolutionary kills pretty much everybody that's surrounding him, and he makes his way down to go find Rocket. Now, it's interesting to me because for all intents and purposes, he is totally lost, right? The planet that he built has exploded, so that's not going to save him. His ship is going down, that's not going to save him. Everybody that was going to help him had turned on him, and he killed them all. So he's really in this like super mentally ill state where he's just trying to find Rocket and somehow make him pay. Rocket has found his way into his old kind of cell area where there are all these other animals that are caged, and he sees a really cute group of little raccoons that look amazing and so cuddly, and he opens up their cage and he's like, we're gonna save all of y'all. And but the High Evolutionary shows up, and it's time for the final showdown, or the face-off, as Peter Quill keeps saying, even though they're like, you walked into a trap, and he's like, it's not a trap, it's a face-off.
It's a face-off. Yeah, it's absolutely like an emotional wreck is what I am, as Rocket goes back into his little section there, and he sees the little pin of little baby raccoons, and he's looking kind of at the placard there on it and reading down, and it does say raccoon, because that's kind of one of the recurring themes is obviously Rocket is a raccoon, but he never knew that he was a raccoon, didn't know what he was, knew that somehow or another he was cobbled together and made into something that he didn't know what it was. So when he sees that, and there as he's gathering up all of these little baby raccoons, it's absolutely wrenching. And then when the High Evolutionary comes in and they have their battle, and Rocket gets to face off with him, he takes a couple of beatings, because High Evolutionary, pretty powerful guy, but Rocket, being the smartest person in the room all the time, hits on his little anti-gravity boots that he'd been playing with earlier in the film, comes back down, shoots the High Evolutionary. All of the Guardians come back in to aid Rocket kind of one last time. They all go through, get their knocks in on High Evolutionary, and that problem has been solved. Rocket says, we gotta help all those animals, and they do. They set them all free. It's pretty neat. They're kind of all running off the ship here as Cosmo is using their telekinetic abilities to try to keep these ships together, which is some pretty powerful stuff. So good job, little Russian space dog there. I really love that stuff, and all the animals are done. I did not love that when they jumped on, the one Ravager guy says, I thought we were only saving like a high intelligence, or what did he say, like high or highly intelligent or highly evolved creatures or something, and I think Peter said, I guess not, and I really wish that they would have said that we are, or something like that, because I felt that was way dismissive of all of the terrible stuff that we saw the rest of the film. I did not love that, I have to say, but they get all the animals off of there, which is great, and they're there to save the day. They survive, except for Peter Quill, who's the last one off of the ship. He stops to get his iPod, as you do, very Indiana Jones, trying to get his hat there at the last second, and he jumps out, but is not able to make it, lost to the vacuum and temperatures of space. His face kind of distorts, and we think that's it for Peter Quill. But luckily, you have a nice cocktail called the Golden Adam. And why do you have that? Because Golden Adam has kept popping back up throughout this thing, and he's going to pop up one more time as he's realized that maybe you don't have to be a bad person. Maybe you can find a new family and do some good in the world, and that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, he's going to take a cue from Ant-Man and not be a D word. And I do love his journey as a character, because like we said, he's basically a child. He thinks like a baby, and he watches his mother die, because she's on the planet that's like exploding, and so he's kind of alone. And Groot, who is now kind of an adult group, but a young adult group, he saves him, and he says, "Why did you save me?" And of course, Groot's like, "I am Groot." Like, we have no idea what he said, but it really does change Adam. And so Adam, because he is very special, he can go out and not be fazed by the temperature and lack of oxygen in space. So he grabs Peter Quill. Peter Quill doesn't look great by this point, I will say. His face kind of swelled. I don't understand that. I thought that was weird.
It's like looked like he got stung by a wasp or something.
Yeah, that was strange. But they, get him in, and they put these health packs on him, that apparently will save you from everything, which is great.
We need some of those.
So, yeah,
let's get those.
Sure, for sure. And so now they're all together again, and they've got this horde of animals. They've got a horde of these little children, that now they are highly intelligent, because within, I don't know, 30 minutes, they've now learned quite a bit of English, which is pretty cool. So they're talking to each other, and they're communicating with the rest of the Guardians and the Ravagers. The Ravagers are excited to welcome Gamora back, and everybody kind of meets up, and they decide to kind of go their separate ways. Peter Quill has kind of a moment where he says, "Hey, I should go see my grandfather," which is interesting. I'm glad they brought that up, because in the second one, I was like, his father kind of comes back and shows up, and I'm like, well, what about the granddad that you left the same day that his daughter died? Like, that's probably something you should go and check out if you can get back to Earth and maybe see how that went down. So I'm glad to see that he does that, but they kind of disperse, right? The Guardians of the Galaxy, they're like, we'll come back together if we need to. They're kind of like the Avengers. Now they're the subset, with a better soundtrack. And they say, hey, if we're ever needed, we'll do that. But at this point, Peter Quill's got to go and get himself healed up. He's got some emotional journey to take after losing Gamora. He's going to go try and find his grandfather. Of course, Mantis and Drax are going to, we thought they were going to stay together, but Mantis is like, no, I'm going to take my giant teethy octopus things, and we're gonna go do something else.
We're gonna go take a vacation. Yeah, everyone's taking a sabbatical. That leaves Drax kind of behind to do whatever. But luckily, Nebula says that she's going to stay and rebuild the town. And it turns out that Drax, I really loved. She's like, you're not meant to be Drax the Destroyer. You're meant to be Drax the dad. So he's going to kind of lead all these kids now that need a place to settle down. And that's going to be in Nowhere, that town that they've got. Rocket now is the new leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And of course, Groot's going to be by his side, along with Golden Adam, Cosmo, and what's his name? Kraglin are there. They are our new members of the Guardians. But yeah, everyone kind of disperses to the wind. So you get kind of the ending of this film, and I guess you get the sense, a little rational. We'll talk about that here in a second, I think. But everyone kind of is where they were meant to be this whole time. This was kind of the journey to get all of these characters to where they were meant to be, and that's where they're going at the end. And then, of course, we get a couple of post-credit things here. We get kind of a mid-credit with Rocket and the new Guardians. They're getting ready to go. Rocket turns on the iPad or the iPod back to that original song from the very first Guardians, the name of which is escaping me right now. Turns that on. They go into
get your
battle.
love.
Come get your love. That's right. He turns that on. They go into battle, and then get the post-credit scene of Peter Quill going and meeting with his grandfather there by the name of Jason. He gets a little Easter egg that says, Kevin Bacon was abducted by aliens on the back of the newspaper, which is, I think, something that happened in the holiday special. And And yeah, that's kind of the end of it. I have to say, I mentioned Radiohead starts the film, which is a 10 for 10 for me. The film ends with everyone kind of dancing in the street a little bit and bopping around to Florence and the Machine. So another 10 for 10 for me. Love that. But that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So we kind of breezed through that a little bit, Michaela. So let's just take a quick moment, just a couple of minutes. Anything that stuck out to you, from the story wise, anything that you really liked, or you didn't sit well with you, or thing. I know we just literally just saw this last night. We barely talked about it because it was late, kind of coming out of it, and we just sat down, hit record, and this is it. This is kind of our first times
Yeah,
talking about what we thought about the movie too. So
right. This is our first processing. I think that you pretty much nailed it. My biggest critique of this whole thing was I thought they were going to really go with the idea that all lives matter, like in a real
mm-hmm.
sense, not in the Republican crazy sense, but like in the real sense, where if we're gonna save these cute little children who are very smart and able, then we should also save all the other living souls that are on this ship. And I was disappointed that they didn't, because I think that they tried to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with a couple of things that you mentioned, right? Like the lines, they didn't clap back at the dude who was like, I thought we were only going to save all the really intelligent ones. You know, that I thought that was an opportunity lost, and I thought they really could have hit that home a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't like that one of the things that happens, if you'll notice, and maybe I'm wrong, but there was someone that was shocked that they were going to let all these animals on, and then of course the raccoons like jump on her face and like
Oh
scratch her.
yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like that.
Yeah.
I get that. I guess that's why that's okay. I don't know. I don't know why they put that in. Other than to, I don't even know. Other than to show that, hey, they're live normal raccoons and they haven't been, they haven't been tortured yet.
Yeah.
And so a normal raccoon would not be like super cute and sweet to a human that had, especially if their experience is that they're just going to come in and like torture them. So
Yeah,
I don't.
and while we're on kind of that gripe, I had kind of one other thing too, and I know that Guardians of the Galaxy is this thing that is it's very kind of musical and very much this kind of joking bit where they just are basically making fun of each other the whole time, but it really didn't sit with me that great, especially after kind of the first two rocket flashback scenes. Like those ended and then they immediately went into like this joyous song. Like it didn't give it like any room to breathe, and just tonally like it felt really awkward and really unnerving to me. I did not like that. I mean, to be clear, I didn't really like the rocket flashback stuff anyway, because I just don't like to see that kind of stuff. But I thought that it was fine for this story. I can jive with it being in there as this essential story part. But kind of just tonally, the way that it felt coming back into the Guardians world felt I don't know, it was like really unnerving to me
Yeah.
somehow. Especially
Yeah.
especially the first couple of times, it seemed like it did it less as we got more into it a little bit. But especially the first couple, you're going from Rocket getting like chucked into a cage, and then it's back for cranking up the iPod time, like it, like boom, like snap of a finger. So
Yeah. Yeah. We need a second. Us animal lovers need a minute to maybe ease into that. I don't know. I get why they did the flashbacks, and they didn't tell it all in one setting. But I kind of wish that they had, because then we would have been able to process that and sit with that a little bit longer. So that's probably my biggest negative critique or constructive criticism that I wish they had thought of or done differently. Because I think there was a huge opportunity for them to really hit home what I think they were trying to do. And I think they just kind of missed it. And so I don't know, maybe it was in the editing room where that got missed and they decided to keep it the way it was. I have no idea, but missed opportunity there. So what else? I do love that. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is probably one of my favorite groupings or movies from the Marvel universe. I really like
mhm.
this group of characters because they're all kind of they all kind of are misfits in whatever, and they all have stories of um pretty deep loss, and they come together to support each other. I mean, every single one of them has a really sad story attached, and I don't necessarily love that, but what I do love is that I bet every person on earth feels like they have had a struggle in their life. Now, whether they're not the same struggles perhaps as everybody else, but to be able to pick your family and to be able to pick the people that are going to be by your side, and be there for you and come together, because they all come together to save their friend. And I think
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. It's not perfect. They yell at each other. Some of them really yell at each other and say awful things. But at the end of the day, they're there for each other. And that's really, I love that they continued that. I do feel like the ending was a bit rushed.
Yeah.
So, I know it was long. I mean, I definitely was shocked that it was as long as it was. It didn't feel
It didn't feel super long. Yeah.
super long. So I think they could have taken another 2 or 3 minutes to kind of have a better way of finishing out some of those storylines, because I feel like that was a little too fast for me.
Yeah. Yeah, especially kind of right at the end, right? Because they save Peter, and then he's like, "All right, I need to talk to everyone," and then boom, everyone's splitting up. So I definitely agree that that was maybe a little bit too quick. The other kind of critique I have, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm super negative on this thing, because I really like the film, but yeah, that kind of stuff there with kind of Rocket, just tonally, that kind of was, I don't know, a little sandpapery to my nerves there at times. The other thing is that Peter's kind of making a big deal about how Rocket's his best friend kind of through the whole thing, about when he's trying to save him, and gotta save my best friend. And that's kind of a little bit of a fun joke, as Drax keeps saying second best friend. But then after Rocket saved, they have kind of a hug, which is nice. But I would have really liked, maybe kind of after Peter is saved, if Peter and Rocket would have just had a moment to say, I'm so glad you're okay," or something like that. Just like one more like little moment about this. You made a whole big deal about how you're saving your best friend, and then they don't have like any like kind of moments like that together kind of then after. I thought was kind of a missed opportunity. I would have liked something like that. But yeah, everyone just kind of scatters to the wind. You like hardly get a chance to catch your breath after this big kind of final battle and stuff before the film's over pretty much at that point. But at the end of the day, like I'd said, I think everyone kind of gets to where they were meant to have gotten to. Gamora is back with the Ravagers, and they're kind of there, and they embrace her, and she seems really happy. So it seems like that's the place that she is meant to be, maybe this whole time too. It's hard to say. So and of course, if you stay to the second credit, of course our Star Lord will return, it says. So I don't know how we're going to get that back, but somehow, some way, Marvel will acquire the rights to a bunch more songs and gets Guardians Volume 4 written. I don't know if James Gunn will have any part in that. We'll have to wait and see, or if it's going to be part of some other multiverse story. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hard to say. Hard to say.
Maybe let's just hope that he learns to chew better, because again, the sound editing was real on point. We heard every single thing, every pop, snap, crackle, and pop of his cereal eating at the end, and that was it was a little. I like
Yeah.
that term, sandpapery. That was sandpapery on my ears. I didn't love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
There
it
you
was
go. It
real
wasn't
well done, but
it, it wasn't
like,
sandpaper. It was like a plate of Jello sliding into your ears.
it was like,
Yeah.
please close your mouth, chew,
Please,
chew,
please,
chew your food.
please chew your food. Absolutely. Yeah, so that is Guardians. Critiques aside, I will say this is probably my favorite Marvel film, probably since Endgame, of the ones of
Wow.
this new run that we've gotten out. Yeah, I like Shang-Chi quite a bit, but this one probably my favorite in a long time. One of my probably favorite Marvel films altogether. But this is weird, because I don't think that I'm probably going to rewatch this one very much, because of how
Oh,
traumatic some of that stuff is. For sure, it's going to be hard. It's easy to put on the first Guardians and have fun with it, or even the second one, which is a little bit more emotional, and have fun with that one. But this one really puts you through the ringer. So I don't know
yeah.
about that, but I really like the story. I really like kind of how they wrapped up the story, even if it was a little bit quick. And I think that it was pretty good send off for our crew, and it finally got Rocket to proclaim himself as Rocket Raccoon, which was pretty great. He took ownership over who he was. He got to discover who he was this whole time, and I thought that was really great. So that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It is really good. We've got our Golden Adam cocktail, which is good because, gotta be honest, Michaela, in the first like 5 minutes of the movie, Adam gets run through with a knife. I was like, oh, we messed up on this drink real bad. But luckily for us,
Yep.
he is a golden god, kept sprouting back up, and now he is a full-fledged member of Guardians of the Galaxy. So mix one of those up, take pictures of it, especially if you do some glimmer gold in there, because it's going to be really pretty. Send that to us on our social medias. That's Instagram and Twitter. It's at Drink the Movies, and on Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of ours, episode recaps, all that stuff, you can do that on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. If you want a little bit more podcast stuff, if you want to support us a little bit goes a long way, and getting the Drink the Movies wheels turning, you can do that on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Drink the Movies. We've got bonus episodes over there. We're going to be talking about Andor here probably next week. We're going to get a little Guardians, little mini cocktail episode up there here. Probably by the time you're listening to this, that'll be up. We've done that previously for Mario and some other stuff like that too. So check out Patreon if you would like to. It's patreon.com/Drink the Movies. But if you just want to stay tuned to the regular episodes we got coming out, Michaela, where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are distributed. Whatever you're listening to right now. In fact, I bet there's a subscribe button. If you're liking what you're hearing, we do 2 drops a week. They're really fun. Press that button. If you're liking what you're hearing even more, leave us a 5-star review on whatever device you have, because a little goes a long way and all of it counts. We love bringing cocktails and movies to you, and we love the community that you all are building. We're just here. So we're just here. We're just along for the ride. So any little bit you do helps us really get the Drink the Movies out there. So we appreciate it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm going to go listen to that soundtrack. Like I said, Radiohead and Florence and the Machine, bookends of this thing. Loved it. So check that out. Let us know what your favorite tune is, and check in next time. What are we talking about next week, Michaela? That is Steel Magnolias. Something equally randomly sad and distressing as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was, but we're going to be talking about that next week. So stay tuned to check that one out, and we'll talk to everyone next time on
Drink the Movies.
Movies.
Word.
You think I'm stupid?
Forget.